Welcome to In Real Time. I'm your host, Hunter. With me today is my incredibly bearded friend, Nick Balsiger. And I always mess up your name. In my phone, it's Balsinger, and I think I'm going to leave it forever. But Nick Balsiger. Nick, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you're about, what's your story. Take it away.
Yeah, so I am the associate pastor in Huntington, Indiana at the Well Church. I went there all throughout my college undergrad when I was at Huntington University and was a part of the youth ministry while in college. And then luckily the youth ministry was big enough to offer me a job when I graduated. So that was a huge win for me. And I've been here going on 6 years. I got married in 2019 to my wife, Shauna. We have a golden retriever that is better than a human, and we love her very much.
Are all the Huntington churches just scalping fresh grads from Huntington? Because that was Brad's similar story too, is he went to College Park at Huntington and then got a job right out. Like, the churches there got a good crop of talent.
Yeah, so I mean, it's more of like, oh, we already know this person. We know that they've been doing good things while being here. Why would we not hire them and not have to do searching for it and all those kinds of things of like, so.
Yeah. What'd they say about your beard?
I don't know if any of the elders or staff had an opinion on it. Now the old ladies, they have an opinion on it.
Yeah.
But
not a fan, or they love it. Run their fingers through it on Sunday morning.
There is one lady that really touches it, and it's a little uncomfortable. She's she's 80, so I mean it's fine.
Oh, she'll never see this. That's fine.
Yeah. So, but actually, I had to trim it down significantly. I went to the Middle East last year, and I came back, and she's been begging me to trim it up, since she's known me, and I did, and I was like, she's gonna lose her mind, and she didn't even notice. And I was like, we were praying in a circle before church, and I was like, Judy, that's not her actual name, Judy, like, do you even notice anything different about me? And she's like, no, what? And then she went, and she realized what it was, and I was like, well, I'm never doing it again for you because you didn't care.
Yeah. When did you start growing that? Like, how long are we looking here?
So this is about a year.
All right.
So yeah, this is, well, I guess year and 2 months.
All right.
I've had a beard since sophomore year of high school, though.
Yeah. When did you decide, like, I'm going to be the guy with the beard? Like, the guy with, not just a beard, because I have facial hair, but you're a guy with you're the beard guy.
Well, since we're talking about youth ministry, it is harmful when I've cut it, because I go into school and they don't know who I am anymore. Like, when I go to school lunches, they'll be like, beard guy. They don't know my name, but they know I stand out. I've had times where, like, I've tried to, like, use it as an incentive of, like, all right, guys, if all of you bring 2 friends, I'll shave my beard right here, right now. And then the next week it's like, oh, we didn't bring friends. We don't want you to do that. Like, I didn't even to make sure that you can do it. So
you should do a reverse incentive, guys. If you don't bring 2 friends next week, I'm shaving my beard.
Yeah. That's my beard story.
All right. So why are you in youth ministry? Like, what got you there?
I think the reason I love teenagers is they're so ready to take charge and change things that need to be changed and have so much fight in them. Some of them don't know how to use that fight for good. And I love being able to watch the energy that they have to do good things in their world be molded and formed into do Jesus things.
Yeah.
And so that's why I really have enjoyed it. I got into it. Basically, people started asking me if I would do that. And I was like, no, that's gross. And I went on with my plan of, I really wanted to sell insurance. And
exciting stuff.
Yeah, super exciting. And I did. My senior year of high school, I had an internship with State Farm. and I still have my State Farm polo. So every Halloween, I'm Jake from State Farm.
Like a
And
good neighbor.
yes, and uh, and I hated it. So then I was like, well, maybe all these people that in my life that asked me if I was going to do that, maybe they knew something I didn't. And then, then God really just opened doors. I was not set up to go to college because I didn't care and I didn't think I was going to go to college. Um, so shout out to Huntington University being the only school that accepted me.
Hey,
So, yeah.
that's awesome. So I have State Farm, and my agent goes to church here,
Mm,
and we joke all the time where I'm like, Dan's his name. I'm like, Dan, that is his real name. I probably should have changed it, whatever. But I'll say, Dan, I said the jingle and you didn't show up. He's like, dude, one of these days we need to set it up to where you say the jingle at youth group and I show up in my reds.
yeah,
And it's just like, bam, blow the kids. So one of these days, I don't think we could do it now because this is going to be public information, and now I know all of my students listen to this, so they're going to be expecting,
right.
but ruined it. Uh, so we're talking about youth ministry today. I really want us to answer a really big question. What's wrong with youth ministry and why isn't it working? We see all these and we hear all of these massive statistics, like 90% of kids who grow up in the church walk away from faith when they go to college. And
Mm-hmm.
all of these, we see kids, and I don't know about your context, but in our rural context, up here in the Amish country of Michigan, most of our students don't stick around. They go off to college,
Yeah,
and some of them come back, most of them don't. So we don't often find out where they're at, what they're doing, and what role does faith play in their life, uh, which can almost feel like, oh well, I have failed. Or we look at the number of kids going through our programs versus the number of young adults either serving in the church or getting into full-time ministry. Those numbers are abysmal. So the natural inclination is to look at the church and look at the faith formation programs and ministries and say those aren't working. So I'm going to pose to you, Nick, what is wrong with youth ministry and why isn't it working?
yeah. Well, let's just answer this in 5 minutes, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
No. So I think the biggest thing is that there's a misunderstanding of why youth ministry exists with parents. And not even that like we're a daycare, we're an extracurricular activity, but that we don't produce good moral citizens of America, or whatever context you would be in. That's not our job. So like if a parent wants to meet with me because their student is doing drugs, like obviously I'm going to meet with them and like talk through that. But that's my goal is not for them to stop doing drugs. My goal is for them to know Jesus.
Oh, okay. That was a
Yeah.
good.
So right, like yes, I would love for them to not do those things, but that is not what my mission is.
Mm-hmm.
There's other great organizations that do that, but that's not my job.
Yeah.
Or like that's not why youth ministry exists.
Right.
Youth ministry exists to reach students that are lost and make disciples within Christian teenagers. So I think that's the one thing of parents having a misunderstanding. And it's not like they're wanting something bad within youth ministry of like what they're expecting. They want good things. That is a good thing to have, but it's a miss of the mission that we truly have. So I think one thing is helping parents understand that's why we exist. Yes, we are here to help you when those problems arises, but that's not why we exist. Two, I think the big one is making sure that students don't feel like they're second-class citizens within the church. Because if they are, why would they continue if that's what they've only experienced with being in the church? So, making sure that that their voice matters, that they're not the problem of like, well, why is this happening? Oh, it's probably the teenagers. That's not a helpful conversation.
Right.
Unless it truly is. Like, why is there a hole in the wall? Well, yeah, it probably is the teenagers. But
Fair.
yeah, actually, it's probably me. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that's one thing too, and also really helping them to have a really good theology of what the church is.
Yeah.
Uh, that's what I've spent a lot of my time on, of helping them really have an understanding of what community is, what Christian community is, what the church is, the body of Christ, how they're a part of it, why that's important. Um, I just think that is really helpful, because if they don't have a good theology of it, and it's just a place where they hear someone talk and sing, then why would you go? If that's
Right.
why we exist, that's a lame reason.
Right.
Uh, and so those are, I think, the two big ones. But there's definitely other little ones.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's we could have a conversation on this for a long time, because then you get into influence in their lives.
Hmm.
What's the primary influence in their lives? Who are the primary influences? Not even talking. Oh, excuse me. Not even talking primary, because the parents will always have been the primary spiritual influence in their life. So the kids will model and learn spiritual formation, faith formation, spiritual practice from their parents. If the parents aren't doing it, the kids are swimming upstream, if they're going to engage in some sort of spiritual life. But then you get all of the their attention being pulled in different ways from friends and sports and school and
Yep.
future, and so that's a big part of it. The culture of busyness. I don't have time for church. I don't have time. This misconception of church is just an add-on in my life, and faith is just a part of my life. Um, well, when it's just an add-on, that means you can put it to the side this week.
Yeah.
But if faith is the filter through which we interact with the world, which is how it's supposed to be, then sure, we'll reorient our time to adjust for things like youth group and whatever small group looks like, and
Hmm.
church on Sunday mornings. And sometimes that does mean skipping youth group for a greater purpose, a family thing. Sometimes it is sports, because sports can be ministry as well. Like,
Yeah.
we talked a little bit about that a few weeks ago with BK. How can sports and faith coexist? So there's some ministry there, and there's some faith stuff, some evangelism and discipleship that can take place. Shocker, crazy idea. Discipleship can take place outside of the church building.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna say it. I'm pretty sure Jesus did do that.
you think he did ministry outside of the temple?
Yeah, I think so.
Wild stuff. That in itself is a huge obstacle, not just in youth ministry, but church ministry in general.
Yeah.
Right? That you want to speak to that a little bit. I don't want to
Yeah.
interrupt
So
you.
I think too, there's a little bit of like, what have we invited them into when they follow Jesus? Like, have we just invited them as a tagline and an Instagram bio verse, like faith? Or have we invited them into something that is truly worthwhile giving your life up
Mhm.
to? Like, I think that is with any other thing, with specifically with students, of like, why would you? Sports ask a lot of them. School asks a lot of them. Their futures ask a lot of them. Like, they all want to have good things within that. They want to be the best in whatever they decide to do, and all those things. And then we have church, or the youth ministry particularly, and it's like, hey, we would love to see you for an hour on Wednesday night, and play games for half hour, and then listen to a message and talk about it for a second. And like, that's what we ask of them.
Mhm.
Uh, or if that's the only thing we are asking of them, that's pretty lame. Like, that's not worthwhile to give up other things that have a lot of meaning and purpose. So we need to make sure that when we're inviting students to follow Jesus, we're not inviting them into something that is lame. We're inviting them into the real thing of following Jesus that is worth giving your life up to the death. Of like, looking at the disciples, all of them other than John gave up their life brutally for it, and they would gladly do it and called it and considered it their joy to do that.
Yeah.
Why? Because they believed in the mission that they were a part of Jesus. Like they were so uh, in love with Jesus and passionate about what he was doing on earth and being a part of that mission. Um, they were willing to do that. So, and I think this is for a church as whole of like, if we're inviting people into following Jesus, that isn't that same level of adventure, excitement, worthiness, like it makes sense of why church and following Jesus is kind of a tagline, a side gig almost, because it isn't sometimes what we've offered isn't worth giving your life to.
Right. Yeah. So let's tackle this, look at this from a couple different perspectives as far as what do we need to do to change. So from the youth pastor, ministry leader, pastor perspective, what do we need to change to fix this trend of kids leaving, whether that be because, well, any of the reasons we talked about,
Yeah.
influences, priorities, busyness, parents, whatever. What can we do to change that?
Yeah. So I think the main thing is understanding what we actually can control. I can't control what their parents do. I can't control what sport they're involved in and what their coach expects from them. I can't, those are out of my control. So there's no reason really to talk what can we do with that. I think the biggest thing is making sure that what we do as a ministry and the vehicles that we use to do ministry are worth more than the influence that they have with their parents or with their sports or with school or whatever. And like the way you do that is really making sure that we're not providing a program, we're providing a ministry vehicle that makes disciples who make disciples.
Yeah.
Just as Jesus, called us to do. So I think that's the biggest thing is making sure that what we do is really worthwhile, and is authentic to what the mission the church has.
So what if a young youth pastor, or older guy, veteran, is listening to this and they're like, I just feel like my vehicle isn't working. It's broken down. I've been doing some of this program-based stuff, and I just think that what I'm offering is lame. What are some steps they can take that you think that can change that can right the ship?
Yeah, I think so. I am in the unique experience where I do not have any sacred cows for youth ministry, because if there was one, I created it, because it kind of I started it within our church because we're young, and all that. So I haven't not had really any sacred cows that I've killed that had a lot of pushback, and I'm very thankful for that, and understand that is not always the case.
Yeah.
So don't just go blow up something because it's not working, and have parents in the church just be mad at you. That's not helpful either. But I do think of like really asking the good questions of, is this how is this serving the purpose of our mission? Like if you don't have a good answer for any of those things, and especially if it's using your budget money to pull off some of those things, why on earth would you do that? And have a really good answer and be able to tell people within your church or your students or why you're not doing that. So like for me, one of the sacred cows that we created, we had 12 hours of Christmas, which is an all-nighter during Christmas, and each hour is a different Christmas themed thing. And honestly, it's a great idea. I think it's really awesome. And it's well attended. We get a ton of new students from it. Our students love it. The downside is it takes a ton of money to do it well. It drains my leaders, and they hate it. I hate it a little bit too. I don't enjoy all-nighters. So like we asked the question of like, all right, is this really worth the cost it has? Like what gain are we getting? And we looked at, all right, here's all the students that came that we don't see on a Wednesday night or a Sunday morning. They came to this event. That was in December. All throughout the rest of the school year, we looked to see, did we have any contact with the students afterwards, whether it be on church, our small group, or even like we texted them and they responded. And we had zero. There was one who I could kind of count, but really she started coming because there was a boy that she liked there. So, and then once he stopped, she left as well. So there's just like, we looked at it as like, that wasn't worth it for the cost. It wasn't actually serving our purpose to reach new students. So why would we continue to do that? So even just asking those kind of questions, and then this year when we're not doing it, and my students are really upset, and like, why aren't we doing this? It's so fun. And I said, well, it's just not worth it. And like I let them know, like, you know that we had all these new students and they never came back. So why would we do that? We're going to do this event where we get to hang out, and because we love being with you, and we'll do these crazy fun things. But if it's not making a connection with you and your friends to bring in, or us to connect with them, or however, that's not why. And that's another way that we bring them into, this is why we exist. They know why we exist, whether they're a Christian or not. They know why we exist. We're not like hiding that from them, and they get to be a part of that. So,
yeah, that's good. That's a good example. Okay, so sometimes it might be killing some sacred cows, but don't just kill them for the sake of killing them. What about there's a parent who really hasn't done a lot, like other than say the kid's got to be in church. You got to go to church. You got to go to youth group. And the kid's pushing back on that. The kid doesn't want anything to do with it. Maybe they're starting to exhibit some of those not so great behaviors, whether it be unhealthy relationship, negative attitude, all of that stuff. And the student's been in the youth ministry for 3, 4, 5 years, but they're just not living out their faith Monday through Saturday. What advice would you give that parent?
Okay,
clearly the youth ministry isn't working.
Right.
So what's wrong with the youth ministry? What can the parent do to right that ship?
So I think you need to have a good understanding of how to have this conversation in a different way than what I'm about to do. But asking them the question of like, how much have they seen you have a real faith in Jesus? So like, I have joked with parents of like, how many of your kids have walked in on you on accident, and they all had the story and it was uncomfortable and hilarious. And then I asked, how many of you have had the story, they walked in on you reading the Bible and then it was silent? And I was like, that is really concerning. So I think that's a big thing of like, if like their parents are not living a faith that is a Monday to Saturday thing, why would their kids do that anyway? And not even like they're just being horrible people, but it just is they don't have an active relationship with Jesus, and they're just still making good moral choices. That's not why we exist. We don't exist to make so that students make good moral choices. We exist to make so that they know Jesus.
Yeah.
And so I think I would ask them that question. So let's say they say, oh yes, we do. Like I have an active relationship with Jesus. We do family Bible studies. We do, everything. What now? I think then the next question is, how can we make Jesus real for them and not just something that they have been around forever? So figuring out how to have, how to give God credit to the stories that he's a part of. That the God stories are not just the like, I had cancer and then all of a sudden I didn't. Like obviously that is a God story and that's awesome. But a God story is also, I was really anxious about this test that I didn't study for at all. And I prayed, Lord, please take this anxiety from me. And I felt at peace, and I still bombed the test, but I just didn't feel anxious about it. That's still God being faithful.
Yeah.
So like helping parents see how they can help their students see that, how they can talk about their life, and just have a huge library of God stories that just compete and eliminate all the other stories that are out there. So I think those are the two things I would do.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. helping them see Jesus for who he is and living it out yourself. You had mentioned something here, and seeing God in the little things. I've
Yeah.
been celebrating God's faithfulness in the really thing, in the little things, and that's really what the heartbeat of In Real Time is celebrating the many ways in our lives and the stories in our lives of when we saw God's faithfulness in real time. So I want to wrap up this episode by hearing some of those stories from you. Uh, so as we've talked, can you recount and share some times in your life where you were just acutely aware of God's momentary faithfulness?
Yeah. I think just over this last year, there has been a lot. So I'll share two. First one, within like the context of our youth ministry that I'm a part of. Uh, my first year of being a youth pastor, my now senior class was really it was difficult. There just was a lot of factors all going around, um, and now to where they're my seniors, and I tried to be faithful. I prayed to God all the time. Like at the beginning, it was like, Lord, let them go away and give me another class. And then, and obviously, that's not where I ended up afterwards. But seeing how God gave me the strength and encouragement to just be a faithful follower of Jesus in front of them, to now where they are just some of my favorite people. To see how the Holy Spirit has worked in so many of their lives, and being able to see God be faithful in their life, and being able to, I have so many cool stories of God being faithful in other people's lives. And, when I share a message at youth or on Sunday morning, I'll share some of those stories. And this is the first year that I have a library of like really cool student stories of God being faithful in their life. And I haven't had that before. And that's, so like, just to see God being faithful throughout this whole time, and now being able to see how God is faithful in their life and have those stories, like, man, that is just God doing what he does and him being faithful to what he says he will do. So that's really fun. In my own life, well, that is in my own life, but personally, without take out the youth ministry context of my life, there's just been some hills and valleys over the last couple years. Things in my control, things out of my control, and they just have not messed with me as much as I thought they would. And I don't think it's because like I'm just like ignoring it. I think it just is because I have consistently, as much as a fallen human would, consistently went to God with the heartache from it, the questions, the doubts, the anger, and just I've seen his faithfulness just by how my emotions have reacted to things within those things now. That I'm not struggling with an identity crisis. I'm not struggling with feeling like I'm not good enough, as much as possible. But like just the like a steadfast being able to slowly just walk through the rain, and knowing that God isn't necessarily holding an umbrella over me to make so it stops raining on me, but that he's just right there and we're just walking through it, and eventually the cloud will go away. So I've just seen God just be faithful in walking with me, and understanding that doesn't mean he takes it away. It means that he's there and he equips you to walk through it and become more and more like him. So that has been that's a story that I will, or not even necessarily a story, but just a truth that I will hold on to probably for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's good. That's awesome. So we'll call this episode to a close, because we'll bring you back some other time and have some more talks about God's faithfulness and some of those stories.
Awesome.
But I don't want to use them all up now. So thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing some of your wisdom in the world of youth ministry, but also just celebrating some of those moments of God's faithfulness with us. Really appreciate you, bro. And we will catch you next time. But until then, this has been In Real